Hi, what can you tell me about your path to the academy?
My path to the academy? Well, I just graduated from Purdue in May, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do for the next year because I'm going to go to grad school next fall is my plan. But my mom called me when I was driving one day and said she saw an ad in the newspaper for the student life counselor position. And it sounded really interesting because I worked at a summer camp before, and that was like kind of a past experience that they were looking for, just working with older kids, and I had worked with 15 through 17-year-olds. So it was right up my alley, and I sent in my application, and Joe Turner called me for an interview, and here I am.
How has this job been different from other jobs? How has it compared?
My only other job was at the summer camp that I talked about, but comparing it to all the jobs that like my friends currently have kind of in the corporate world, it's completely flip-flopped because, they work from 8 to 5 and, they're invested in what they do, but working here at the academy, you live with the people that you work with, so I think that's definitely something that people may, need to get used to if they've never had a job like this before, especially with high school students if you just haven't spent a lot of time with them. I know like our hours are kind of different, working from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. That's something I'll definitely, I'm used to it now, but once I transition back into real world or if I go back to grad school, it's going to be an adjustment just because I feel like I'm a night owl now, so.
Which aspects of your work at the academy have had like the greatest meaning to you?
I would definitely say the relationships that I've made with my colleagues and with the students here at the academy is probably the part that I'm going to take away with me the most, just because it's just such a unique opportunity here and it's just such a different experience, I think, than any other job when you really have a chance to influence, the lives of others and be a mentor towards others. So it's definitely my favorite part.
Speaking of colleagues, how does the social dynamic of the academy, like the workplace, compare to that of anything else you've experienced?
I would say a lot of other jobs and other jobs that I've worked, you get to know your coworkers, but usually, you hang out with them at work, and that's it. But I feel like here, being around each other so much, you really have to get used to, like, the different lifestyles. And I feel like a lot of the SLCs here, we come from a lot of different backgrounds, and maybe that's just not something that I've been exposed to as much. So I feel like I've been able to learn a lot from other people, and they've taught me a lot, I guess, about the job, and just I feel like I've learned a lot about myself through the training experience, because it wasn't just training us how to be a mentor, but really trying to learn about ourselves. And we did a lot of the the test if like extrovert, introvert, what is it called? Myers-Briggs. We did a lot of that stuff, and a lot of like the sibling stuff, like where you fall in the orders, and I never had like learned any of that, so I've learned a lot about myself through this job as well that I just wasn't expecting.
They do a lot of that before you apply, and like once you get in, they make you take the Myers-Briggs and all the like sibling order things, and you don't think that's gonna have an impact, but supposedly that's how they pair you with your roommate, and I guess that really does that. I find it interesting. Is there anything you wish you would have known before you began working here?
Anything I wish I would have known? I didn't know what to expect, I guess, when I came here, so, because I had never even heard of the academy before I applied, so just maybe kind of figuring out the culture and how everything works. We had 3 weeks of training before all the students arrived, which was really nice, just to get accustomed to the building and how everything works and what all my keys are for, and just like every little detail. I don't know, it was nice to have a place to get used to, kind of like you guys come before Ball State students come, and you kind of get used to the campus, by yourself, and then, more gets added on. But maybe just about how the culture thinks, and just, it was hard to imagine the daily routines and, like, how every day, the daily schedule would be like until we actually started doing it, so.
You talked about the culture. As far as students go, you went to high school, obviously, right?
Yep.
How would you compare academy students to traditional high school students?
I think the academy students are much more mature than any other high school students. I went to a pretty big high school, at 4,000 kids, so I feel like it was really hard to develop meaningful relationships with a lot of people. Like everybody had their certain group of friends, but I feel like here at the academy, it's not that you're forced to make friends with people that you wouldn't normally like gravitate towards, but you're just exposed to a lot of different people and you live with them on a daily basis. So I feel like you have the opportunity to learn, more about others and try and develop, relationships with people maybe that you wouldn't necessarily have that relationship with. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like, yeah, there's still groups of friends, but those social circles, the typical like high school cliques, I feel like those walls are broken down a lot more here than at any other high school.
Alright. How do you think working here is going to affect your future down the line?
I want to go into higher education for graduate school, so I'll be working with a lot of college students, and I feel like this is just kind of a stepping stone towards that end goal, and when I do ultimately get a job in student affairs at a university. So I think just working with students, it kind of, I don't know, it gives you a different perspective, I guess, because I feel like if I would have gotten a corporate job that was like a 9-to-5 job, it would have just been a bore. And I feel like this has made me really realize how much I love working with students and how much, I love being a mentor towards other kids. So it's definitely helped me along the way, just kind of one step towards what I want to do in the future.
Do you think it takes, like being an SLC is something, I don't want to say anyone can do, but anyone can sort of learn to do well, or do you think it takes a certain personality to be able to deal with all these high schoolers?
I think it is a job that you can learn to do, but I feel like you have to have that willingness and that initial kind of, you have to be able to relate towards other people who aren't like you. You know what I mean? Because there's not every person can relate to high school students, you know what I mean, and build relationships with people that are, 6-7 years younger with them, because maybe, either they're more introverted or maybe, I don't know, they just don't get along, with people younger than themselves. But I feel like just with the experience of working with high school age and developing relationships with them in the past, I kind of knew what to expect, but I think it would definitely be not a shock to people that have never done it before, but it would just be a brand new experience. You would kind of have to like relearn how to build those relationships and how to connect with people that aren't like in your same age range. So.
Okay, well that's all the questions I have now. I might come by for a follow-up interview sometime.
Yep.
If that'd be okay. And thank you for your time.
You're welcome.